Now, back to your friends, Don and Gino.
Valley residents, but a lot of you out there are interested in the subject we're talking about today, which is elder care. And what does that mean, and what are your options? And thank goodness we have one of the best in our valley. Actually gets nominated the best on a regular basis. We've been nominating you every day, by the way.
Well, thank you.
For the Signal's Best of, which we were #1 last year ourselves. So
we were number
pat on our back.
We'll have to say that we've won it 5 years in a row now.
Woo! Woo-hoo. That's tough competition. But I know why, and that's why you're here, Myles. Because one, we just know your passion behind it. I was kind of digging into that passion, and it was kind of nice hearing about how it hits you at home and how easy it is for you to empathize or sympathize with a lot of us that are going to have to deal with elder care, meaning how we're going to handle situations with our parents or grandparents and what are our options. And you were talking about, before you figure out those options, sometimes you have to have that conversation to find out what's important to either the parent or grandparent and yourself, and how best to handle it. And you got to have the conversation. You can't just assume anything when you're talking about their lives.
Exactly.
So you were touching on some of the delicate items that you need to talk about. Why don't we dive a little deeper into that? Because a lot of you out there, I'm sure, are like, I don't have a clue how to have that conversation. I don't want to have that conversation. My dad will bite my head off, or mom will be upset. But sometimes these conversations have to happen, don't they?
Well, they do, and you know that old saying is, people don't plan to fail; they just fail to plan.
Absolutely.
And when you have that conversation of, it shouldn't be just with your parents; it should be with your spouse if you're in your 20s or 30s. A lot of people don't understand that when you become age 18 and over, you now need to have legal documents in place for others to speak on your behalf if you can't. So even our own children, when they become 18, we need to put an advanced health care directive together for them, because just because they're my daughter, if they get hurt and they can't speak for themselves, I can't go crashing into the hospital and start barking orders around unless I have that legal document that says I have the right to do so.
What is that called? Because I know most, I'm going to guarantee a lot of you out there don't have, I guarantee, what do you say, 80%? I don't even have to give a number, but a large portion don't know they need to have that.
Right, and it's called an advanced health care directive.
Okay.
And it basically names your agent, so to speak, that if you're unable to speak on your own behalf, that someone will make those decisions for you, which means you've probably had that conversation of, again, what do you want to happen with, you know, issues in the hospital if you're going to be put on a respirator, or if, whatever the case may be. You've had that conversation with whoever you name as your agent. It doesn't need to be a family member. A lot of times it's more important to not have a family member.
Yeah, because if my wife should just go, no, just pull the plug.
Right.
Well, I think that conversation changes over time, right?
Absolutely.
Because it seems to me, even now, it's becoming, let's say, more acceptable where let's say the patient or the elder person might say, well, I don't want to be kept alive. You know, don't make those extra efforts because the quality of life is gone.
Yeah, my dad had those.
Yeah.
He's like, if I'm a vegetable, no, just do what, a DNR?
Well, that's why you want to have someone who has the ability to communicate with the doctor. I'll give you a prime example. I was named years ago, before I was even in home care, my wife's grandmother's boyfriend. He was in his 90s, and he had named me his agent. And we had minor conversations and stuff, because also, if you're injured, if you have a stroke, you're not thinking clearly yourself.
Right.
Well, unfortunately, he was involved in a horrific accident where he actually killed somebody, and he was critically injured himself. And he's in the hospital on a respirator, telling me to let him go. I could see it in his eyes. He was telling, but we'd had the conversation. Well, if it's something to get you over the hump, and you're going to have a quality of life after you're on these machines, versus you're going to be on this machine for the rest of your life.
Right.
So I had the conversation with the doctor. I took the emotions out of it, and his name was Frank, and I said, why is he on a respirator? And bottom line was, he needed help for the next couple days to recover, to be able to live a normal life again. Well, as Frank in his eyes is telling me to pull the plug and let him go, I was having a conversation with the doctor, and I wouldn't let him go. So in 2 days, he came off the respirator.
He said, hey, thanks.
And he lived for another 5-6 years.
Wow.
Good, healthy quality of life. His mind was still there, but physically, he needed to get over the hump. We had that conversation. So as he's telling me to let him go, I knew what he wanted, because he had told me what he wanted, and I told the doctors to do just that. So But if I didn't have that legal document, I don't know what the doctors would have done. I don't know.
Right.
That's the scary part, is you don't want the doctors or the judges necessarily making decisions. I can't remember her name, that gal in Florida. Terry Schiavo was
Yep.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Remember
Yeah.
that fiasco?
Famous case.
Yeah.
Yeah, because nobody had the legal right to speak on her behalf, so it was tied up in the courts, it was tied up in, judges, the doctors, everybody had an opinion. So, again, going back to that platinum rule, sit down your loved ones of all ages who've reached the age of 18, but especially your elderly parents, ask them what they want. Ask them what they want. Even to the nth degree of what music do you want played at your service. But these aren't fun conversations to have. But that's why you want to have them early. If you're having them, as an adult child, I mean, it's the biggest transition, or the toughest transition we ever make in life, is parenting our parents. I mean, they're our heroes a lot of times. They've raised us. So now we have to start parenting our parents.
That role reversal's tough.
It's horrible. And the things I stress to people is, dignity, respect, kindness, and patience. Depending on when you're having that conversation, because if now you're thrust into that role of a family caregiver, caring for your mom or dad or grandparents with Alzheimer's or other forms of dementia, you have to understand that disease before you can help address it.
Yeah, no doubt.
And the thing is people don't understand that Alzheimer's, which is the most prevalent form of dementia, it's a progressive, non-curable disease.
Yeah.
So it's only going to get worse. And so the patience and the education that it takes from the adult child's point of view is enormous. And I see it all the time with our clients, where the children are allowing themselves to get upset. They're getting frustrated. They're getting pissed, if I can say that.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand what they're dealing with. And the thing is you can't teach someone with Alzheimer's. That's that whole circle of life. It's sort of, we come into this world naked and crying, and a lot of times we're going to go out of this world naked and crying. But the thing with when we're rearing our children is you can teach them. You can teach them as they get older. Well, with an Alzheimer's patient, you can't teach them. You've got to protect their quality of life in the moment.
Without taking it personally.
Right. Are they happy? Are they, and if they say to you the sky's green, don't correct them and say the sky's blue. Just
Right.
tell them green's your favorite
So you're
color.
saying you need to understand it.
You need to understand it. And
Right.
and I'll throw this out there for your listeners right now. I mean, we have a lot of our clients that we bring in. We have a skills lab at Comfort Keepers, and we have a lot of educational videos on dementia and Alzheimer's.
And I love that you
other
guys
things.
give back that way. It's good.
And you don't have to be on service with us, and it's free. Come to our office, sit down, watch these videos. We can answer questions for you, understand what it is you're dealing with, because you also need to take care of yourself as the family caregiver. If you start stressing and start, having issues with health because of what you're doing with your parents, because you're running around like a jackrabbit trying to take care
Right,
of your
Shannon?
trying to take, we call that the sandwich generation. They're taking care of their own children, getting them to soccer practice, getting them to school, blah blah blah. But now they've got to run over, make sure mom took her medication on time, or make sure she ate properly, or make sure she's hydrating properly in this hot weather. And so they're just sandwiched in between this, and they're just running themselves ragged. And the family caregiver a lot of time ends up having failing health, and sometimes pass away before the person they're caring for.
Okay, in case some of you have to break away from either the radio or your computer, because we are live at donandgino.com, we're here with Myles McNamara with Comfort Keepers in-home care. Why don't you give us an idea of, what how you guys can help with this, and how they can get a hold of you? How can they get a hold of these videos to learn about? What's nice, you put together 30 different videos explaining different scenarios and different situations, correct?
Any questions you may have regarding home care or elder care, or we have a lot of YouTube videos. But if you went to we have our comfortkeepers.com website, which links to our local site, which is called seniorcaresantaclarita.com, and there's a slew of YouTube videos there that asks the most common questions, answers the questions people probably haven't even thought about. Options they have with their aging parents. So there's a lot of education to be had out there, because a lot of people call it the age wave. It's the age tsunami, and it's here.
I bet. Especially, we all know about the baby boomers. That's got to be fueling it quite a bit.
Right.
And our community. People haven't thought, why is this becoming so prevalent in our community? But our community was very young. I've been out here since the 70s. There's only a few of us out here, but a lot of us that have been out here since the 70s and 60s and even earlier. basically that's what now we're all getting older.
Right.
And it's becoming more important in our community than it ever has. And it's good that we have you, Myles, and again, Myles McNamara with Comfort Keepers in home care. So you can go, what was the website again where they can start gathering up a little bit of information?
Well, the easiest to remember is comfortkeepers.com, but I would go to seniorcaresantaclarita.com.
Okay, seniorcaresantaclarita.com.
Right, and it has a lot of educational materials that kind of explains what we do. I mean, I can explain more, because a lot of people get confused with what's home care versus home health versus hospice versus,
We're going to talk about that in the final segment. I think we should. We should break it down so you understand the differences in some of your options and stuff. Where's your office at?
It's on Lyons Avenue, 23900 Lyons Avenue.
Yeah, you can't miss it. I've seen it there myself. All right, so don't go away because we're going to help you. We've been talking about the difficulties and some of the challenges dealing with our aging population, our aging parents, our aging grandparents, and having that difficult conversation and some of the things you should know and talk about, and that's important to have that conversation now. And Myles is going to now help you with what are your options? What can you do? What's the difference between in-home care versus medical care versus some of the other options? This is more Myles' expertise, and he's going to share it with us when we come back to the Don and Gino Real Estate Plan.